Warning, this video contains spoiler alerts.
In this series, we'll be looking at every movie in the Godzilla franchise, from 1954 to 2024, and learn about the many monsters who were introduced. The Godzilla franchise comprises of 33 official Japanese movies, 5 official US adaptations, and 5 other movies for Rodan and Mothra. For those not familiar with the events and characters in the franchise, this series will help you get familiar with them. Now for the 7th movie of the franchise, Ebirah, Horror of the Deep, 1966. It started with a boat being stranding at sea in the middle of a storm and attacked by a monster. The monster grabbed onto the boat and pulled it under along with its crew. 2 months later, a woman was by a shrine to get answers to whether her son was dead or alive. But the facts said that her son's boat went down in a storm in the South Sea. She was convinced that her son was alive because the Buddhist said so every time she came. On the TV, it showed a dance competition being held to win a boat. People were trying to be the last one standing on the dance floor. Ichino was desperate to get a boat, but his friends, Nita and Ryota, did not win. They decided to take a boat from the harbor instead. When they entered, they saw that it was like a house, fully stocked with food and clothes. But the owner of the boat, Yoshimura, was already inside and held a hunting rifle at them. He let them stay for the night. In the morning, they found themselves out in the middle of the ocean. Ichino had already started the boat and set sail while everyone was asleep, and he took Yoshimura's rifle. Ichino refused to turn the boat around, and Nita and Ryota did not know how to drive a boat. They remained below deck and heard on the radio of a news report about a ship leaving the harbor and a robbery. Nita and Ryota suspected Yoshimura of being the reported thief. Ichino refused to turn around because he needed to find his brother, Yada, who went missing during the storm. Over time, the food supply started to dwindle and they entered a storm. The briefcase fell from the boats rocking and revealed the money, but water began to seep inside, ruining it. The boat was riding the violent waves and the sail pole broke from the wind surges. They then saw a massive claw rising from the water and were shipwrecked on an island. They decided to climb the cliffside and found a machete and a cave at the top. They went to see what was inside and found a jungle full of food. After eating their fill, they traveled across the island and found a ship entering the bay. They went down to meet it but discovered a strange facility on the island. The ship was transporting slaves in exchange for some barrels of a chemical. Some of the slaves made a run for it, with 2 getting into a boat, but they were attacked by a giant lobster, Ebirah, who ate them. While they were distracted, a slave girl, Deo, escaped. The rest of the slaves were sent inside the facility. Yamato, captain of Red Bamboo, a terrorist organization, was informed of Deo's escape and went to find her. Ichino and the others met Deo and followed her to try to talk to her. They were surprised that she spoke their language. Soldiers from Red Bamboo were beginning to surround the area and they tried to escape. They ran towards a cliff and hid under its ledge. When Yamato and the others saw that it was just a dead end and thought they went into the sea, he ended the search and left with the soldiers. Ichino and the others went inside the cave as another storm came. When they got inside, the lightning struck and exposed a hole in the cave ceiling, letting the rain in. Deo then revealed that she was from Infant Island and that Ichino's brother left the island a month ago. On Infant Island, a ceremony was being performed for Mothra by the natives and twin fairies. While waiting for Mothra, they decided to attack the soldiers to get away off of the island and rescue the slaves. But they stumbled upon Godzilla sleeping in the cave with them. They used a bush to sneak up to the gate, but Ryota tripped. The guards shone the searchlights on them, but only saw the bush. Then Deo released an owl to make it look more natural. Yoshimura went to pick the lock while Ichino stood guard and the others remained hidden. When the door was opened, they went inside and went through another door. They saw two scientists enter an elevator and discovered a storage room that led to a laboratory. They found a door, thinking it was a secret room, but it was a nuclear reactor. While they tried to leave the laboratory, they ran into Yamato and some soldiers. They used the bombs they picked up as a smokescreen to get away and went for the gate. But they were found, Nita was captured, and Ichino flew away attached to a balloon. The others escaped back to the cave they hid in and saw the soldiers searching. Godzilla was still asleep inside the cave, but they heard his heartbeat through the ground. Nita was thrown in with the other slaves and discovered that the yellow liquid they were making was to protect the soldiers from Ebirah when they were near water. On Infant Island, the ceremony for Mothra was still going on, but Ichino was able to arrive to the island. He fell in the middle of the ceremony and was reunited with his brother. The twin fairies knew of the soldiers kidnapping their people. The soldiers continued their search across the island and Ryota suggested that they should wake Godzilla. But Yoshimura did not like that idea, thinking that the soldiers knew he was here too. Ryota then told him that if they did know Godzilla was here, then they would not be working their way up to where they were. They used the machete and wire to attract lightning so they could wake Godzilla up. Nita convinced the other slaves to make a fake batch of the yellow liquid to sabotage the soldiers. Ichino and Yada left Infant Island with some of the yellow liquid to protect them from Ebirah. The fairies told them to tell the captured natives that Mothra will come to save them soon. 3 days passed and Yoshimura, Ryota and Deo still waited for lightning to come wake Godzilla. Ichino and Yada were close to the island and saw a storm coming. The soldiers who were searching left, and Ichino and Yada struggled to get to the shore. Ebirah appeared and lightning struck the machete, causing Godzilla to wake up. Ichino and Yada swam towards the island and Godzilla burst through the wall of the cave to the outside. Godzilla threw a boulder at Ebirah, who knocked it back at him, and Godzilla threw it again. But Ebirah knocked it away. They threw another boulder at each other, but Ebirah threw the boulder over the island towards the facility. They continued fighting and Godzilla used his atomic breath on him. The commander, Yamato, and the soldiers ran outside to see what was happening and decided to call for backup from headquarters. Godzilla slammed Ebirah into the sea, but Ebirah pulled him into the sea. He knocked a rock onto Ebirah's head and swam back up. Ebirah retreated and Godzilla went back to the island. Yoshimura, Ryota and Deo met Ichino and Yada in the jungle and went to spy on the facility. But there was a hidden microphone on the tree listening to them and the soldiers found them. They escaped and some of the soldiers went after Deo. But Deo hid nearby Godzilla who was looking directly at them. Deo and the soldiers ran away. The others heard her call for help but saw Godzilla looking at her. They waited for him to leave but decided to move slowly towards her. Godzilla then fell asleep, giving Deo the chance to escape. But then a giant condor came, attacking Godzilla and pulling his tail. Godzilla knocked the giant condor away and blasted it with his atomic breath, causing it to fall into the sea. Fighter jets then came after him and fired missiles at him. The others tried to get closer to rescue Deo. Godzilla smashed the jets in his hands and swatted them away. He even bit one and knocked away another with his tail. He then went straight for the facility and the soldiers started firing at him. Godzilla destroyed the device that was preventing him from entering the facility, but the captives were right below him. The cavern wanted to cave in. Godzilla went directly for the nuclear reactor while Yoshimura and Yada went to free the captives. They escaped, but the island had 2 hours until it exploded. All the soldiers fled on the ship, taking barrels of the yellow liquid with them. Godzilla continued his rampage. The yellow liquid the soldiers took were all fake, and Ebirah attacked them, leaving no survivors. Godzilla saw Ebirah and they started fighting again. Ebirah dragged him back underwater and continued fighting. The captives made a net out of what they could get from the jungle, and Yoshimura could not reach the button to cancel the detonation. There was only 10 minutes left and Mothra seemed like their only hope. On Infant Island, the ceremony continued and Mothra woke up. Mothra flew over to the island while Godzilla and Ebirah still fought. Godzilla broke off one of Ebirah's claws and chased him away. He noticed Mothra and went to the island to meet her. But they got into an argument and she knocked him over. Everyone got into the net and Mothra flew off with them. They tried to tell Godzilla to leave the island and he jumped into the sea. The island then exploded and was completely destroyed. Godzilla was then seen swimming away from the island and Mothra brought everyone back to Infant Island. So, there's a new sea monster that's around and it's challenging Godzilla for dominance over the sea. But we all know that Godzilla is the true king of the sea. Also, for some reason hearing the Red Bamboo terrorist organization kept reminding me of the Red Ribbon Army from Dragon Ball. It was interesting to see another sea monster in the series, but fans rarely remember him since he only appeared in 2 movies in the entire franchise. Ebirah, Horror of the Deep, or Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, is about a search party for a missing person that got turned into an anti-terrorist team to take down a terrorist organization who were using the island they were stranded on as a base of operations, with Ebirah as their guard. They held natives of Infant Island hostage, forcing them to make a strange liquid used to defend the organization from Ebirah when they traveled by sea. But they did not realize that Godzilla was on the island too, sleeping in a cave. Godzilla destroyed the organization and Mothra needed to chase him off the island and get all the humans out at the same time before the island exploded. At least Godzilla made it off the island just in time and was unharmed. This aspect of the story introduces Ebirah, a giant lobster kaiju, the giant condor, a bird kaiju, and the Red Bamboo terrorist organization. In the next movie, we'll be introduced to Manila, the son of Godzilla, Kamacuras, a giant praying mantis kaiju, and Kumanga, a giant spider kaiju. Be sure to like and subscribe for more. Until next time.